The next major event that happened after the Battle of Ahzab is what is called as the massacre of Banu Qurayzah. Remember that when the Prophet ﷺ came to the city of Medina from Mecca, when he migrated, he united the different warring tribes of the Aus and the Khazraj. They were the main two tribes in Medina. They were fighting each other for centuries. The Prophet united them. He stopped those warfares between them. And he instilled in them the spirit of brotherhood. The Prophet also ﷺ signed a number of treaties with the Jewish tribes. Then the main three tribes who were in the area, they expressed interest to the Prophet ﷺ that we also like to sign the treaties with you. Because remember, there were many Jewish tribes. But the main three ones were who? Banu Nadir, Banu Qaynaqa, and Banu Qurayzah. These were the three main tribes. So before the three main tribes made a pact with the Prophet, other smaller Jewish tribes had made a pact with the Prophet. They signed on the Constitution of Medina. What did they agree to? That we will peacefully live with Muslims. The Prophet told them, you can stay here. We respect you. You can stay as, Jewish. We respect that. We will not fight you, but you don't fight us. We will not conspire against you. You do not conspire against us. Deal? Deal. They signed. When these small Jewish tribes signed, the other three main Jewish tribes, the big tribes, they came. They told the Prophet, we also would like to make a deal with you. The Prophet said, I welcome that. So they signed. The Prophet asked them, what happens if you break your promises? What happens if you break the treaty? What happens if you commit treason? If you conspire with the enemies against us? What's the penalty? What did the Jews say? They told him, we will sign that if we were to commit treason and betray you, you could kill our men and you are allowed to enslave our women and children. Who said that to the Prophet? The Jews. They willingly came, made an agreement with the Prophet, and they accepted these conditions. The Prophet said, okay, we have a deal. One of those tribes who signed with the Prophet is Banu Qurayzah. They lived in Medina, about 2 miles away from the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. Other Jewish tribes were around Medina. These guys were in the heart of Medina. Now, who is Banu Qurayzah? What's the ancestry of this tribe? Some historians have stated that Qurayzah comes from the main tribe of Judham. And so they were cousins with Banu Nadir, the other Jews. It has been mentioned that they became Jews during the days of Samuel, the famous Arab poet. He lived at the end of the 5th century, so about a century before the Prophet ﷺ. We're talking about the days of Jahiliyyah. They became Jews at the time. Then they lived by a mountain called Qurayzah. That mountain was called Qurayzah. Therefore, the tribe came to be known as Banu Qurayzah. Another historical report states that one of their grandfathers, his name was Qurayzah, so they're attributed to their grandfather. They were a very important tribe. The Prophet had a beautiful, peaceful relationship with them. These Jews, they enjoyed the protection of the Muslim community. Now, when the Ahzab, Quraysh and the other paganistic tribes, when they marched towards Medina and the Muslims were digging the trench, remember the details of that trench? Banu Qurayzah even helped the Muslims by supplying them with tools, shovels, axes, in order to dig the trench. Because that's the agreement they made with the Prophet, that if there is an outside enemy, we'll help you guys, we'll defend Muslims. We won't participate in the battle, but at least we'll help you. So initially, they supported the Muslims by giving them some tools. But then, as we saw, with the negative influence of other Jewish tribal leaders, specifically Huyay ibn Akhtab, the culprit, who went to Mecca and who mobilized all the pagans against the Prophet. That's why the Battle of Ahzab ensued, because of Huyay ibn Akhtab and some others. Under the influence of Huyay ibn Akhtab, Banu Qurayzah broke the treaty with the Prophet ﷺ, and they committed treason. How did they commit treason? They communicated with Abu Sufyan and the Ahzab. They told them, we'll help you guys. Uproot Muhammad and kill him. You guys attack from the outside of Medina. We live inside Medina. We'll make a surprise attack. We'll enslave Muslim women and children. We'll take them as slaves. We'll kill the men. And we'll get rid of Islam for once and for all. That's the agreement they made with Abu Sufyan. But we saw in previous classes how Allah foiled their plots and how Allah gave victory to the Prophet ﷺ. Now, even by today's standards, this is a huge crime. You commit treason like that. You have a peace agreement with your neighbors in Medina. You communicate with their enemies who are pagans. They're not even monotheistic. You guys come, we'll support you, we'll make a surprise attack, and we'll kill. And we'll let you in. This is treason by the highest standards. Because the intent here was not to kill one Muslim or two Muslims or confiscate a piece of property or weaken them. The goal was to what? Uproot Islam for once and for all. Kill every single Muslim in Medina. That is a crime by the highest standards. You cannot have a crime more severe than that. When you want to uproot an entire city, just commit genocide on them. This is what the Jews of Banu Qurayzah did. They attempted to, of course, Allah stopped them, but that's what they wanted to do. And remember, when the constitution was drafted between them and the Prophet, they agreed, they signed. If we commit treason, you're allowed to kill our men, enslave our women and children. They agreed to that.
What was the name of the man that...
The instigator, Huyay ibn Akhtab. Huyay ibn Akhtab, he came from the tribe of Banu Nadir. They committed treason in the past. The Prophet exiled them. He didn't kill them. So he went to Khaybar, the Jews of Khaybar. From there he basically mobilized the pagans to come and fight the Prophet. Banu Qurayzah, you remember, we saw, they resisted. They're like, no, we have a pact with Muhammad. He convinced them to commit treason. Okay, let's see now what happens here. And the reason I want to go into detail examining what happened with Banu Qurayzah, because my dear brothers and sisters, today, when you hear Orientalists talking about Islam, or anyone talking about Islam, they consider this as a sore point in the history of Islam. They keep repeating the phrase, Muhammad killed 700 Jews, Muhammad killed 900 Jews, Muhammad killed 700 Jews, Islam killed 700 Jews. They keep mentioning this. We really want to understand what happened. How many people got killed? Why they got killed.